going on, everyone? It's Chuck, and this is the ITXP Season 9, Episode 9.0. I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to kind of do this prediction of what the trends are for the future. And I sat down late last year, earlier this year. It's June 20th today. And I figured, let me throw my hat into this ring in predicting the future of technology, more particularly centered around your career and what potential career opportunities there will be for you, because I think a lot of us get stuck into this mindset of, how do I stay relevant? How can I advance my career? What trends will be there in the future? I'm either in high school right now, I want to look for something that will give me longevity, or I'm an old fart and like myself, and I need to figure out what I can do to stay relevant either in an organization or start a consultancy. So what do I need to learn this year or starting this year so I can be better prepared for it in the future? If you watched a few seasons ago, I think back in 2017, 2018, I started talking about progressive web apps, and where I went to a conference talking about progressive web apps, and I talked about VR, AR. Those things are still relevant, but it's going to be harder and harder for you to get into that industry if you've not really learned the programming aspects of VR, AR, progressive web apps. They all really had some notion around development and coding, and that may not be your forte. They're like, dude, I don't want to sit in front of a computer just going like this, clicking left and right on the keyboard. I want to do something different. I want to leverage some of the newer technologies that are coming out there. And what are they? So I decided to make some bold predictions, and let's see how they go, because most of the time you'll find that technology changes super quick. Next thing you know, AWS has released 32 new services. Azure has dumped more money into OpenAI project than everyone else. I think they own 49% of that now, and they're going to take it over eventually once it grows to something more significant. So technology's changing. We've all heard of ChatGPT, right, where it's revolutionizing the world and the industry. But think about it. Those are tools that you can leverage to execute a job or execute a function or something, right? That's all they are. The people using the tools need to understand how to use them, and you can actually jump into them right away. ChatGPT, if you're not on that ChatGPT bandwagon, I talked about it in my last episode last year. If you're not on that bandwagon, you better start learning how to leverage AI to do work for you, because what I've learned over the course of the past month using ChatGPT is that if you don't put in a question, or if you don't frame the question properly, you're going to get a shitty response. Let me say it again. If you don't frame the question properly and exactly what you want, you're going to get a shitty response. Same thing with DALL-E or Midjourney. You'll see that if you put in what are they called? Prompts. If you put in prompts that really aren't what you're looking for, you're going to get some shitty results. On the flip side, if you really don't know what you want, AI can steer you towards what you're looking for, but that's something totally different. But you have to understand that some of these technologies develop over time. OpenAI has been around for a while. ChatGPT, GPT-3, and then 4. Before that was 2, and then 1, right? They've always been there. Their research teams building out a lot of these technologies that once they come to the forefront, it's already a decade old, but you don't realize it because you're not in that mind space. You're not looking at those research projects. So I said, you know what? Let me go down that rabbit hole. Let me go back into my academic mindset and my academia, and say, okay, excuse me, what's going on? Obviously, we know about cloud computing. I don't think that's a dead horse, right? Everybody's in cloud computing. What I should warn you on is that you shouldn't focus on AWS. You should focus on Google Cloud Provider platform, and then also Azure. You should focus on those two. I'm seeing a big trend, at least in the organization I'm at, is a shift away from AWS and more into Azure. and even GCP at that point. So that really that multi-cloud provider may be something that that organizations are looking for, right? Not just that one-trick pony on AWS. Not to say AWS is bad. We're finding that it's getting expensive, and we've had conversations internally. It's like, well, how do we reduce costs? I'm gonna raise my hand. I was like, bring everything back on premises. Oh, we can't do that. We can't scale up and this and that. I was like, you'd be surprised what we can do nowadays. But regardless, there's still going to be a cloud first mentality, which is fine. But just don't corner yourself into one provider. Yes, you can make money in AWS, but those that have branched out and focused on Azure find themselves doing very well with their careers. So cloud computing is definitely going to be something that continues on from now into the future. Quantum computing, I'm not going to get into that in this episode. I want to talk about that separately because it deserves a conversation in of itself. Quantum computing, especially the post-quantum computing world, which you should start to be hearing now, especially with NIST looking to release their replacement for RSA next year. So this is going to be very interesting, and I'm going to talk about that in my next episode regarding quantum computing. But let's focus on some of the things that I think are at the precipice of changing careers, changing organizations for the better, or maybe for the worse, depending on your opinion on it, and how you can capitalize on those technologies to find yourself a job. And that's essentially what this show started. How do you stay fresh? How do you stay current? How do you obtain a new career? What things do you need to look out for? What do you need to start learning to do? We're seeing a lot more people coming into tech that have never touched a computer before, in the sense that they haven't done it as a career in terms of solving problems with technology, developing solutions that leverage technology to enable businesses. We've seen folks jump into the cybersecurity space from all walks of life, right? So there are opportunities in tech that don't require you to code. There's also a lot of no-code stuff. So if you have an analytical mind, someone that is good at troubleshooting or connecting the dots, seeing the big picture as opposed to the smaller picture, technology is really for you. And these are some of the trends that I feel over the next year will gain traction that you should probably jump on, right? Because a lot of these things are already impacting our lives. And the first thing I'm going to get into is blockchain. I've said this time and time again. Blockchain is here, and forget about cryptocurrency, right? Forget about cryptocurrency. That's all part of blockchain. But blockchain technology in and of itself, at the core, is a digital ledger of transactions that are decentralized and distributed across a network of computers. Chuck, what the fuck does that mean? So you have a checkbook, right? That's your bank ledger, right? You kind of write everything in there, right? That goes on in there. Or if you are a technologist, your logs, right? Every application should have a log of what the hell was going on, right? If you're capturing information from, I use Active Directory, right? So everything that's going on in Active Directory is recorded, right? That's a ledger of transactions. What the hell happened in Active Directory, right? That log then gets sent over to Sysvol or a not Sysvol, Syslog server, Splunk, some sort of SIEM or whatever, right? So that is then distributed, right? Let's use that term, distributed, because then that SIEM will then distribute it across a bunch of different computers, right? So think about your bank ledger, right, being recorded in your book, right? But after you record it into your book, it then gets sent across to a number of different copies of that book across the world, right? That's essentially blockchain. I spent $10 here. I did this here. I did that. Now I'm using it as a monetary sense or financial sense, but it has a number of different applications that blockchain can be used for, right? So that ledger of transactions. Think about what's the other one? Walmart or big consumer organization, not consumer, big wholesale operations, right? And where they have inventory that they need to track, right? How do they track that inventory today? It probably goes into one system and then, right, it probably gets lost as the product travels across the world. So a lot of these organizations, a lot of these companies like Walmart are using blockchain technology to track that, to have a better idea of where their inventory is. Now, the whole concept and idea behind blockchain was that it's supposed to be decentralized. It's supposed to be, and I'll get to that in a second. But the real benefit around blockchain is that secure, because once something gets into that ledger, you can't change it. It's immutable. You can't touch it. You can't do anything with it. And the other benefit, some see this as a deterrent, is that it's transparent. Public blockchains, you can see everything that's going on. And now here I go into cryptocurrency, right? Where I now have a wallet address that I know sent 1,000 Bitcoin to another wallet address. And if I did enough digging, I could probably find out who that wallet address belongs to. So it's secure and transparent, right? And especially because of the distributed nature of it, even if somebody were able to get into that, to be able to modify that, right? It's going to get modified across the world. But what happens if there's some network communication or you have offline, right? So there are ways around that. And then when we talk about quantum computing in the next episode, we'll talk about the challenges that faces with some blockchain technology, right? But again, you have a secure and transparent system that's recording all the transactions that are going on that are leveraging that system. Plain and simple, right? The other benefit of blockchain technology is peer-to-peer. You remember Napster in the day, right? I was no longer buying from Apple, iTunes, or whomever. Joe Smith around the world had that file on his desktop. I'm just going to grab it from him. So that peer-to-peer concept is still going. Again, in a monetary sense, because a lot of people are familiar with cryptocurrency, hopefully by now. I have a bank. I just did this recently, right? I have to send money to an organization for a summer camp for my child. So I have a bank account. I take the X amount of money and send it to that person. Well, there's back end processes that involve the bank, involves their bank, an intermediary that then takes the money from my account, sends it to their account. Right? Boom. With blockchain, I don't have to do that anymore. I just go, hey, Joe Smith, boop, here's $50 that I owed you for whatever, right? And most people are familiar with that with things like Cash App and Venmo and things like that. But even behind the scenes, that's still a bank, and there's a middle person in between that sending money back and forth. Blockchain eliminates the need for that. And we're seeing a lot of discussion around the monetary system changing that. The Federal Reserve, the World Economic Forum. These things you need to keep an eye on to understand the impact that blockchain technology is going to have in your daily life. Apart from the monetary system, right? Apart from banking and finance, think about identity management or identity. Today, we have ID cards, whether they're a national ID card, a state-issued ID card, a passport of some sort. Those are all disconnected systems, right? They're all disparate systems in and of itself. But what people are doing and building on blockchain is building identity systems where now I can validate myself with just this ID, whatever it may be, anywhere around the world. And it's going to say, oh yeah, this is Chuck, right? He's from United States. He lives in this state. He lives in this street. Here's his phone number, right? Boom. It's going to have all that information. It's scary for most, right? But it's going to really help solidify the identity of you. And we're seeing this with some technologies now. If you've seen the Clear system at the airports, right? You just scan your face and boom, yeah, it's Chuck. Here we go. So it's going to add on top of that application that immutability, the inability to change who I am right now. But the scary thing is that you can actually see where I went because you could follow that transaction. You can see how much money I spent because you could follow that transaction. Now, in the implementation of some of these systems, and remember I told you in the beginning, it's supposed to be decentralized. These blockchain systems aren't decentralized. They're owned by one entity. They're owned by a government. They're owned by the banking system. Remember, the Federal Reserve, the World Economic Forum, the central bank, those are not government entities. Those are banks. Those are banks. Those aren't government entities. They're banks. So now you have a banking system that is looking to move into this blockchain space. And now they're going to be able to see what you're spending your money on. Right? It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's really just the tip of the iceberg of what we can do. But doomsday aside and loss of privacy aside, how can you jump into this blockchain technology? Well, the first thing, and I've been saying this for probably a year or two now at this point, is start leveraging start learning about the Hyperledger technology, right? The Hyperledger Foundation, their implementation of blockchain, and look at all these companies that are leveraging Hyperledger, right? All these companies are leveraging Hyperledger, and they're pretty big companies here, right? Look at the one that I just passed by. GE. What's GE doing? Right? Well, they're leveraging it in their billing system, right? They want to make sure because GE has so many companies in their organization, they needed something to keep track of events for an invoice. So they're leveraging Hyperledger, right? So here you go. This enables GE to move towards a continuous accounting financial process. The additional benefit is it reduces volume of month-end accruals to only invalid transaction. This approach provides earlier visibility to P&L activity. Although settlement is executed after Treasury approval, netting and aggregation balance happens in real time as the transactions are accepted and providing immediate cash flow workflow data, right? So they're using a Hyperledger Fabric for this. That's GE. So if you look at all the other companies that are leveraging Hyperledger Fabric for their blockchain implementation, you have a multitude of opportunities to figure out what you want to get into and how you can get your foot in the door. Some of these are big, some of these are small. Look at Oracle. Hell, Oracle built their own, right? But they're also leveraging Hyperledger Fabric, right? So they're leveraging it in the cloud so folks can start doing smart contracts in Oracle Cloud, right? And all you have to do, so you go to learn training and certification on hyperledger.org, and it will take you to how you learn about this stuff. It gives you blockchain essentials. It talks about training partners. There's some free things that you can learn. And you can go on Google and start continuing to learn through there. But the blockchain technology is here to stay. Obviously, Hyperledger is one aspect of blockchain technology. There are a bunch more. This will require you to learn a little bit more about programming. But if you want to be a program manager, project manager, scrum master, whatever, in this space, this is going to give you insights into what it is and maybe give you the ability to learn more about how to talk and how to manage projects within this space. Right? So it's hard to ignore that blockchain is something that you should be jumping into at this point at this stage of the game. This is probably one of the newer ones. Excuse me, not newer ones. This is probably one of the older technologies, right? That I've added to this 2023 list. But it's imperative that you start looking at this more closely, in terms of understanding what the future holds for potential job opportunities. Just because AI is around, ChatGPT, it's not going to take your job. It's going to change the way you do your job, right? So that's blockchain. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse around that. Next one is augmented intelligence, or AI augmentation. It's artificial intelligence to enhance and augment human intelligence. Again, you're not being replaced. We're just going to augment it. These systems are used to assist humans in work and decision-making process. ChatGPT, I told you about that at the beginning. It's going to help you, right? Give you the ability to automate some of your tasks, and if you code it, or if you provide instruction to it succinctly and clearly, then it'll actually make decisions for you on its behalf. Right? Customer service. Remember those AI chatbots? That's right. That's augmented intelligence. So now companies don't have to pay for people to sit on the chat console, answering questions. AI will do it. Is it great? No, but it's improved over the years. You'd be surprised how many things are actually a AI chatbot. Right? They make it human friendly, so those that are technology adverse, even though if you're technology adverse, you probably wouldn't be using a chatbot, but regardless, if you're technology adverse, it seems like you're actually talking to somebody. Well, most of the time, it's just a chatbot. Right? Augmented intelligence is also used in healthcare. Right? Helps analyzing medical images. There's a show, a TV show, for those that watch TV, called Chicago Med. I believe it's on NBC. And believe this season of the show, a Jeff Bezos type person introduced Operating Room 2.0, in where it leverages artificial intelligence to help the doctor perform better at their job. And it's a really good storyline, because the younger doctors are embracing this technology very, very quickly. They were hesitant at first, like, how can AI help me improve my job, where I have decades of experience in the surgical field to assess and analyze what's going on, and the doctor that actually is help driving the AI says, well, you have better imaging that can actually get into the core of the situation. So the AI scans the body, goes in there, does composite graphical images, 3D images, modeling of this organ that they're working on, and the AI will analyze the best course of action. Now, one of the good things about this storyline, and I don't know how true that is, I don't work in the medical field, but it may be something that's being worked on in probably research institutions or teaching hospitals. But what the point of the story is that there is this clash between traditional medicine and the new medicine. So the one surgeon that is embracing this, who actually got to use it first and had some challenges initially, because the AI said, oh, if you suture it this way, there's higher risk of infection, blah, blah, blah. And it all had to do based on the threshold. Again, the input that you set, or the instructions that you give the AI, will dictate the responses that you get back. So in this case, the settings, or the input that the AI had said, we're going to set a threshold of X, so that way we minimize any infection or damage to the organ. But the doctor, having decades of experience, is like, I've done this 1,000 times. It's going to be okay the way he was suturing. So they had to lower the threshold, and the AI said, "Yeah, okay, you're good to go." And sure enough, he did it, right? So the moral of the story is you're going to have this continuing battle between AI and people that have experience in certain fields that know better than the AI. And why is that? Because the AI that's being coded and developed is done by a set of programmers that are feeding and training that AI with models that they have access to, right? They can feed it from again in this scenario, decades and decades of medical history that they just feed into the AI. But if you're not a surgeon and you don't do this day in and day out, you're gonna miss out on the nuances of what surgery requires. Does that make sense? It's really how we train the AI models needs to be done by folks within that field, and you're seeing that now. And this is what I'm talking about in augmented intelligence, right? You're seeing that now when I look at augmented intelligence, right? The models being trained by data, but now as more and more people are adopting and accepting AI, you're getting actual people that work in the industry feeding it more and more data that based on what they're accustomed to, what they've seen, right? So you'll see retail, online shopping, sales and marketing, finance, healthcare, manufacturing, all that information is now being used and being fed into these initial AI models that were initially fed by programmers, but now they're being fed by people that are actually in the industry, right? Now, what I've always said is your AI is only as good as the data that you feed it, right? So what happens if you give you feed it a load of crap? Yeah, yeah, you're gonna have that problem. I think it was Microsoft that did the Twitter bot, or somebody, I forgot what, years ago. They launched the Twitter bot, an AI Twitter bot that would mimic human behavior, and within, I think, what was it, 15 minutes, it started shooting out profanity, racist remarks, and things like that. So they had to shut it down because the model it was being fed was from Twitter, and Twitter is a cesspool of negative information, negative attitudes, right? So, you know, there are a lot of benefits for using augmented intelligence, right? Primarily, you're going to find that it's going to improve your efficiency overall. It's going to allow you to focus on other things. And this is one of the things I tell my team, or I've told my teams. Why don't you automate the mundane tasks, so you can do something cooler? Because your role here, yes, your role here is to keep the lights on in the organization, but you also want to add value. Because we can automate your job, but we can't automate the way you think, or maybe some of the insights in ways things are done. So automate the boring shit and focus on the cool shit and how you can improve either the department you're in or the organization as a whole. Improve processes. And that's what we're looking for people to do. It's not just people to do their job. Yeah, that's why we hired you, to do your job. But now that you're part of this organization, you should really start thinking about, well, how do I make it better? How do I make my job better? How do I make this process better? How do I make this company better? Right? That's overall our goal. A lot of people get in the mindset that they work for a company and the company owes them something. The company doesn't owe you shit. They don't owe you shit. It's a quid pro quo, right? Something for something. You're going to give them something, they're going to give you something. That's what work is. A lot of people, and I don't know where this mindset came from, that you're entitled to some sort of salary, compensation, whatever. Yeah, that entitlement is based on what the market is willing to pay. And we've seen that fluctuate now, going down on a downward trend. But really, your role here is to do something that they've asked you to, but also to remain relevant, to add more value, because as you add more value, your cost goes up, and you're not going to recognize that at that current company, but and if you do it really well, they may recognize it. I've had some successes like that because I've been able to improve certain things, and they've recognized that they've improved my salary. Now, not to the degree where like, oh, you're getting 20% raises every year. No, that doesn't happen in organizations like some of the ones I worked at. But as you build up your value within the organization, now you have something that you can go take somewhere else and then increase your value there, right? So that's what I'm talking about in improving your worth within an organization by automating the dumb stuff. And augmented intelligence is going to help you with that, right? Especially with ChatGPT and things like that. It's like, oh, I've been able to leverage this technology to implement X, Y, and Z. Oh, well, Bob can do the same thing. You use ChatGPT. Okay, Bob, go ahead. And Bob doesn't get the same results because he didn't enter the prompts that you did, because you have that analytical mind, or you worked on something that you knew exactly what you were looking for. You just couldn't code it properly, or you couldn't do X, Y, and Z properly. You couldn't build an Excel macro properly. But you knew what you wanted it to do, and you put it into ChatGPT, and it did it for you, and you just said, boop, there you go. Right? So that's what I mean by augmented intelligence, and how that's going to benefit you over the next year or two until it gets smarter and whatnot. Right? So when you're challenging yourself to figure out how to use ChatGPT, think about some of the outcomes, the results that you want, and learn how to tweak those prompts. Learn how to tweak those prompts so you can get what you want, right? So it's not about how AI is going to replace you. It may replace some people. I'm not going to dispute that fact. It may replace some people, and we're seeing that today. Self-checkout at retail stores. Self-checkout ordering systems at fast food chains. Some bars have robots creating mixed drinks for them. All that is automation. Extend augmented intelligence to that. You join a rewards club. You have your phone in your hand. The system knows that you walked into the store because you have the app open. You're looking at something. The app makes a call out to the store. It's like, oh, Chuck's in Costco right now. Let's list a whole slew of specials for him. And think about, and this goes down into one of the other topics I have around Internet of Behavior. But think about, but this also talks about augmented intelligence because they kind of go hand in hand. I'm walking through the store, and I now have the display that shows me an advertisement for something that something similar that I purchased a month ago. Like, hey, Chuck, look at this prime rib, right? Whatever, right? I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I need prime rib. Let me go grab some. I remember that was good here. I really enjoyed it that one time, right? So that's what augmented intelligence is going to be. And yeah, it's going to displace some people, but technology has always displaced people. Always. From the dawn of man. Or human, I should say. Technology has always displaced people. The wheel, right? That's technology. When we think about technology, a lot of us get focused in on the tech side of technology. But technology is just tools that are used to move civilization forward. That's what technology is. So when you think about augmented intelligence, yeah, it's going to displace a lot of people. But I've said this before, we are in probably the best time to live in terms of knowledge. Because there's so much data out there, we can learn almost anything, probably everything, for free. You just have to look for it. And then apply what you learn. Plain and simple. Apply what you learn. So it's going to have a big impact, but it's also going to cause a lot of people to lose jobs. And that's why I'm talking about this, right? What can you do now to start developing your skill sets in this area? Start learning ChatGPT. Start learning some of those things. ChatGPT is free, so that's the best place to start. And then you can kind of go from there. So here's something else, right? Augmented intelligence. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on this one, right? If you look at where it fits in the overall process, right? You have your structured data, and you have your unstructured data, right? So applications like Tableau, where you get business intelligence, really focusing on this area with structured data. Then you move up the ladder with Cloudera and big data analytics. Remember, big data was a big thing. That term was thrown around. What year is this? 2023? Maybe 2015, 16? That area, 14 to 18, somewhere around there. Big data was like the thing, but now that's kind of, the norm at this point. Then you have robotic process automation and bots. Let's say 2021 time frame, right? Still people use it. I know we use it in our organization. Machine learning, right? TensorFlow. I remember where I was at Rev2 in the city a couple years back. We talked about TensorFlow, right? Domino, H2O.ai, right? And again, it's expanding out, right? You go structured data, raw data, and then you're getting to unstructured data, right? With the machine learning. Then you got cognitive services from AWS, Azure, GCP, right? IBM Watson, that's his cognitive services. And then cognitive processes, right? This is kind of where it takes everything and boop, augments all of that. Boop. This is where your augmentation is. It's going to take everything from structured data, the raw data, the unstructured data. It's going to be able to process all that shit and help you make better choices. Maybe even do the decisions for you. So augmented intelligence is here. So it's best to learn how to use it to make your life even better. ChatGPT. Start using it. Figure out how to use it. It's still early. Forget about what you see on TikTok or whatever. A lot of people that still don't understand how to use it. Start learning now. Right? It's 2023. January. Start using it now. So internet behavior is the next thing I want to talk about. It kind of builds upon what we talked about here in terms of augmented intelligence. Internet behavior is the use of data and technology to understand and influence human behavior. Remember, I talked about augmented intelligence 2 seconds ago, and I said I was in Costco. I have my app. I'm looking for sales, right? I'm passing by an electronic marketing display, and as soon as I pass by it, an advertisement for prime rib comes up. Like, oh, you know what? I had that prime rib. This is internet behavior, right? It's going to collect that information that I put into my rewards program, analyze it. Possibly, if I connected my LinkedIn and my Twitter and my TikTok and my Instagram, it'll probably start looking at all that stuff and saying, whoa, Chuck has gone to BJ's or Sam's Club. We saw it on his Instagram because he has it open to us. He linked it. Let's see how we can continue getting him back to our store. So we'll send key marketing campaigns to his email address or to his social media account. We'll pop up ads, right, on his social media. Wearable devices. Chuck, your heart rate goes high when you pass that prime rib, right? So this is the thing about internet behavior. You're actually being programmed into how to behave now. And this has been happening way before the internet came around, right? Television was their first program. Actually, before that, radio, right? So anytime you have access to a wide range of people, you have the ability to program their behaviors. And this now So there was a challenge, right? When the internet came on and YouTube came on, the challenge was that advertisers and product companies were seeing a decline in the purchases of their products because they didn't have that large scale market. So they had to find other ways of being marketable to people. Now, the challenge here is everybody has a different identity, different use case on how to use a product. So, how do you continue that branding or that product placement or that marketing to those people? I don't watch TV as much anymore. I don't watch commercials. Shit. I hate commercials. If I can bypass a commercial, I will. So how do advertisers target me? They leverage social media. They leverage whatever tools that I've allowed people to connect to with me. Email's the big one, right? But email's easy. Delete, 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 delete. Use Google to unsubscribe to a bunch of shit, right? Create secondary email addresses for all that shit, the marketing shit. Right? So how are they going to continue targeting me? Well, my electronic devices, my wearable media, things like that. So when we go here in terms of internet of behavior, right? We have the data, we have the information. Now we're going to mix it up with augmented intelligence and give me more knowledge and understanding around the person that we're trying to target, right? They're going to tailor the marketing. And we talked about that before, right? Based on the analysis of what you've done. Those reward programs are there for a reason. They're there for a reason because they're collecting data from you. Chuck, they're not doing that. They're just trying to. No, they're collecting data from you. You're allowing them to collect data from you. Terms of Services says, I'm going to collect everything I can from you. Especially the ones that say, I'm going to collect everything in your network. And you know what I do? Delete. But I already have apps that are collecting data from my network. I see it on my network already. Right? So what do? I throw it into a honeypot. There you go. Go there. Right? I can't get everything, but for the most part, it goes into honeypot. So it's being done. Healthcare, right? You're seeing that in healthcare again. Healthcare is going to be big. If you want to really make a difference in the world and how healthcare companies leverage technology, go into healthcare tech, healthcare IT, because they've been behind the trends for years, but now they're needing to catch up, right? So they're going to leverage this data to build plans to prevent or mitigate health issues, right, based on your habits. So there's a lot of benefits, So again, if you understand how to use data, if you understand how to analyze data, again, this will require you to learn some coding, but there are a lot of no-code tools out there that can probably help you do this, right? It's all about leveraging technology on improving those efficiencies, improving the decision-making processes, right? Again, healthcare is going to be the big one. We're seeing it already. So if you want to get into this space of augmented intelligence and internet behavior or even blockchain, right, for medical data, these are some of the things that you should start thinking about now. And if you're a young person, thank you for watching. I know I'm an old fart and I don't talk fast, but I'm trying to provide insight into how we can shape the future of this world, not just an old fart like me trying to stay relevant. This is really a brain dump of everything I've done, the culmination of 25 plus years of working in an industry that has changed probably initially every 10 years and every 5 years, now almost every year you're seeing something change. Or 6 months, 3 months, every quarter something's changing. Something new's coming out. So thank you for watching if you're young, even in the future. I appreciate that. Because I'm not fancy, I'm not showy and things like that. That's not my point. It's a brain dump. It's always been a brain dump. So, but again, you're going to decide what you want to do. You're going to decide what you want to do. All right. The next topic I want to talk about, again, these are just really things if you want to jump on the game now, digital stability. So with everything I've said, blockchain, augmented intelligence, Internet of Behavior, right? You have to have the ability of individuals, organizations, society to thrive in the digital world, right? They need to be literate in technology. They need to have access to it. And they also need to be secure, right? Because technology plays an important role in our lives today, in our daily routines and how we communicate and how we do business, how we get information and entertainment, we have to make sure that we have a level of digital stability so people can thrive. And we need to ensure that people have the skills and knowledge to be able to use that technology effectively. And we have to make sure that it's secure so they don't get hacked, or that data that they provide or using of that technology doesn't harm them, right? Because we've all seen, remember early in the days of online chatting, people were lured, young children were lured away from their house. Now we have cyberbullying and we have other things that people are tracking other folks. So we have to, with digital literacy, you also have to make sure that they're protected. Now I have this article here. This is about digital stability in the Middle East. I just put up this blob here, right? The share of young people in Arab countries concerned about the quality of their education, right? 78% of the people are concerned. 22% of the people are concerned. Why did they pick the Middle East? Well, while the Middle East governments allow access to technology, it's not an equitable distribution of access to technology. So meaning more boys, biological boys, because there is no concept of transgender in the Middle East. I mean, it exists, but biological boys get more access to technology than biological girls, right? And then on top of that, if you do get access to that technology and the internet, you're getting censored information. So they're filtering the content that their citizens can actually see. Now, for folks living in a country like ours who have the ability to bypass censorship, that's probably unfathomable to you. Like, Chuck, it's 2023. You're telling me not everybody has access to the same data I do, information I do? No. Absolutely not. There's still organizations and regimes that filter a lot of that information. And you may not know this, but you probably are getting filtered information too if you haven't moved away from your internet service provider's DNS or content system. It's true. So there's a whole world out there, and I'm not even talking about the dark web. That's bullshit, right? There are things there are sites and areas that are probably not indexed. They're probably not presented to you. You have to really go dig deeper into the inner recesses of the web search. Right? Forget Google, forget Bing. Use some other web engines, search engines that will provide this information for you. Because again, we're being programmed into what you should see. Right? Oh, I want to know, who the next presidential candidate is. You probably, if you use Google or any other large technology organization, you probably will see mostly Democratic candidates pop up. I don't want to get political here, but those organizations, those technology companies, typically will promote, and we've seen this, Democratic candidates. We are being programmed on what we can consume. So digital stability, right? We have inequitable access to information. We have inequitable access to technology, right? So one of the challenges here is how do we get everyone access? How do we get everyone information in that they need in order to grow the civilization, right? But again, in addition to that, is they need to be secure. There's a lot of complex threats online. It's getting worse out there. And so it's important for us to ensure that as we grant access to the technology, that they're secure, right? And also because technology changes so quickly, we need to make sure people understand how to use that technology. Again, ChatGPT, I'm gonna say this probably a few more times before the end of this episode. Really shaking up how people perceive technology. They think this is the end of times. And it may very well be the end of times for a large number of people if they can't become literate on how to use the technology. Right? So again, talking about digital literacy. So it's something that's really important, and how for those that are more conscious of societal needs, right? Here's an area that you could probably go either work for a nonprofit or start your own nonprofit for that matter, and come up with plans on how to get technology into people's hands, low cost, right? Not censored and secure. So you want to promote digital stability. Right? You can work with, again, nonprofits and things like that. You can work for the government, but I mean, do you really want to work for the government? You can build courses. So this whole thing that I'm doing, right, is knowledge information, right? I'm providing knowledge for you. There's this whole industry of knowledge people, trainers, coaches, whatever you want to call them. They're giving you knowledge, right? So you can create your own course, and hopefully people want to pay for it. That's a thing, right? That's a thing. You can become a knowledge promoter or whatever, right? Educator. I hate the word coaches because everybody can't be a coach. Just like everybody can't be a CEO. So, and look, I've paid for courses that are supposed to teach me how to become this knowledge coach, whatever, right? And I find it interesting that we have this influx of people that are taking what they know and just charging insane amount of money without really proving that they've done anything worthwhile. That's why for me, this is a dump. I dump my knowledge. You do with it what you want. I'm in my basement. Look, I'm in my basement. This is not, nobody wants to see Chuck in his basement. Okay, I don't give a shit. I don't care. If I change one person's life, I'm good. I'm good. This was meant as a legacy for me to just dump what I know and what my thoughts are on certain things. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is cyber physical systems now. It's like, holy shit, Chuck, what the fuck is going on with this? Why are you going into the weeds? What the hell is this thing that you're showing me here? Right? So you have to understand that the physical and digital worlds are intertwining with each other. Right? You have various computing devices that monitor and control physical things. Manufacturing space, we see this, right? very rarely do you have many folks doing the really hard labor that used to be done, right? Now folks are, instead of, if you look at the macro sense, now they're going to the micro sense of they may be doing fine tuning things within the framework of a manufacturing company, right? Or they may be overseeing the robots, right, that are actually doing the things, right? But those things also need to be secured, right? So, we have cyber physical systems that improve efficiency, reduce waste, right? Improve quality products and things like that. Transportation, right? We've seen automated drivers. They're working on automated trucks now and things like that. Automated rails and things like that. But you have to understand the complexity of these, right? And here's a concept map that I found, right? And you click on it, it'll talk through some of this stuff, where they're actually being used and things like that. So this is great. But at any one of these points of entries between the physical and the cyber world, there are potentials for security attacks, right? And here's the cybersecurity component of it, right? Also the safety component, the physical safety component of it, right? If you have so these worlds are now, and they have been, meshing together. And then take on top of that augmented reality or virtual reality. Right? We've seen the military use drones, people wearing a virtual reality headset, and they're flying the drone. No longer on a monitor, they're actually right there. It's actually like they're flying in a cockpit. So all these systems now, we need folks that have the knowledge to understand how we keep those systems safe. Not only physically, but also in the cybersec world. So again, cybersecurity is going to play a big important role here. But from your perspective, if you've worked in the manufacturing space and you have a grasp of certain technologies, then you can make a big impact here, right? And this is only going to get bigger. And it's, again, this will displace some people. But if you're already working in that world, right, you can help optimize some of these cyber physical systems. You can help secure them even more, right? Believe me, cybersecurity, not a lot of people are doing it correctly. A lot of people saying they're doing it, but they're not following through, right? So you're gonna see a continued rise in the need for people to really understand the hazards between the physical world in terms of the safety, right? The safety, hazard analysis, unsafe control actions, right? And the cybersecurity, privacy, resilience, malicious attack, intrusion detection. All those things are going to be beneficial in the cyber physical systems world, right? They're connected to the internet. If you're connected to the internet, you're not safe. We've said that. The safest computer in the world is one that's disconnected, unpowered, and thrown in a locked box in a closet, locked 10 feet below the ground. It's the safest computer system in the world, right? So, next thing is, I'm going to go briefly over this. We've seen this to some degree, event thinking, event processing applications. It's Event thinking is about analyzing data that focuses on individual events rather than the aggregated data. So right now, if you're looking at monitoring systems, they kind of really aggregate the data and analyze, right? Again, the behaviors and things like that, and you may get notified. And then you have processing of that aggregated data. But now we're really getting to the macro sense. So if you think of the aggregated data as the macro, this event thinking and event processing is the micro aspect of it, right? So they're going to analyze and respond to individual events in real time, right? Finance is the big one where they see that it's making a significant impact. They're looking at patterns and trends that help decision making, especially on financial trading floors, right? They're looking at if you move to manufacturing again, to monitor and optimize production processes. Right? They can look at real time ways things are being produced and improve those efficiencies. As each individual product is going down the line, they can scan it. Oh shit! No, let's course correct right before the next bunch come through. So they're doing that in a real time process, right? So that way they know. Okay, they already see that maybe bottlenecks are going to come down the road in their manufacturing line that they can course correct right away, right? So this is now a way of improving processes, and we were talking about data collection, things like that. It's happening, right? So instead of waiting for something big to have happen after you analyze a bunch of data, excuse me, all at once, you're now analyzing those streams of data as they come across to be predictive. So again, predictive analytics, those buzz terms and things like that, are one of the benefits that you'll see here, right? It'll help you make faster and more informed decisions, right, and things like that. So I wanted to add it in here because if you think about some of the monitoring solutions that are out there, especially in the IT world or in the technology space, right? We've sort of been doing this to some degree for a while, but now this is helping folks produce or prepare for change. That's what I should say. When conditions change as they come around. So again, in real time, right? And you can create probably innovative products and services by analyzing that. So it's something that I think we should focus on, but it was hard pressed to find something that would be visually appealing to everyone. But it's something that I think more organizations are going to continue going through event monitoring, event thinking, event processing, right? It's still kind of in its infancy in how we actually can leverage some of that stuff or make informed decisions or actually have augmented intelligence leverage that, right? So as you can see, they're all tying into each other. So that's event thinking and event processing applications. And lastly is edge computing. Look at Cloudflare. Cloudflare is a big example of edge computing. It's more of a decentralized computing model, right, where data processing and storage is performed at the edge of the network. Prior to this, everything was coming into a data center or was coming into a VPC or a VNet, right, or some sort of cloud provider. So now everything is being stored and processed at the edge of the network. IoT devices, right? They're doing a lot of this processing of data already because it's more efficient to do so, and I don't have to spend all that bandwidth coming into the data center. I decrease my latency by doing that, right? By leveraging edge computing. Cloudflare has made a big name for themselves just with edge computing, right? Content delivery networks was kind of the first foray into edge computing. And as you have an increased demand for real-time automation and control, right, where response times are critical, edge computing is the way to go, right? It's doing a lot of video processing to reduce the amount of data that needs to be transmitted over networks. Right? A lot of potential here. So check out Cloudflare. They're talking about examples of this, right? Security monitoring systems, self-driving cars are going to definitely leverage edge computing because they need to, right? You can't wait for that data to go into the data center. So imagine you're driving down the car and you're hitting a cell tower, right? That cell tower may have some edge computing technologies there, right? Some compute power in there that can send back real-time data to the car about traffic patterns, about weather patterns, about whatever, right? And it's near instantaneous, right? So that's one of the things that edge computing is going to help. Again, we talked about CDNs, right? Medical monitoring devices. Think about when we start implementing medical devices in our systems. I don't have to wait for it to kind of go out into the internet and come back, hit some sort of data center and come back. 52 milliseconds may be too late to have something either inject you with a medicine or resuscitate your heart or something like that, right? So a lot of big advantages coming in the future with edge computing, the greater use of edge computing, enablement. But one of the challenges is going to be scalability, right? So you kind of have decentralized computing resources. Where are you going to put all these things, right? There's economies and countries where it may not be cost effective for you to leverage any of their sites to support your edge computing model, right? And then security. Security is again going to play a big role in this, right? Not only physical security, cybersecurity, but physical security, right? So it's something that there's a lot of potential there, but there's also some things to think about as we expand the use of edge computing. So these are the things that I've talked about today around some of the things that I think are going to continue or start to develop over the course of this year, right? When we talked about blockchain, that's already taking place. Augmented intelligence, that's already started with ChatGPT and other applications of that GPT model. We talked about Internet of Behavior. Again, they kind of stack on top of each other. Digital stability, the ability for equitable access to technology, as well as literacy on technology and how to use that technology. Cyber physical systems, the event thinking and event processing of applications. I didn't talk too much into that, but I think it's something that you all should dig deeper into. And then edge computing, which we just finished up. So there are a lot of things that you can start digging deeper into and understanding a little bit more. I'll put some of the links up on that I have here in the show notes, so you can actually check it out some more on your own and continue digging deeper. Next episode is going to be about quantum computing, because I've actually started conversations with folks within my organization about a post-quantum world, especially as it relates to passwords and PKI certificates and keys and things like that. So there's lots and lots of information. One thing I would caution you, don't drink from the fire hydrant. Pick a topic, go down that rabbit hole. If you find that you don't agree with it or just doesn't jive with you, pick something else and go down that rabbit hole. Right? Try not to consume everything all at once, because it will get overwhelming. So again, follow me, subscribe, the_IT_XP on Twitter and TikTok. Those are just fun places for me to hang out if you want to get to know me a little bit better. But I'll just continue posting here and enjoy the rest of your day, time. We'll see you next time.